What's up, everyone? It's your girl V, and welcome to another episode of Mindful Unfoldings. Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your girl V, and welcome to another episode of Mindful Unfoldings. It's a new week, and we have a gorgeous guest today, and her name is Triumph. I'm going to let you introduce yourself to our audience, tell them who you are, what you do, etc.
What am I going to say after you showered me with so much compliments? Thank you for having me, V. My name is Triumph, as she had said, and I'm pleased to be here. I think the most important thing, I always fall into this trap when I'm asked, so tell us about yourself. I'm Triumph and I'm a child of God. I'm born again. I don't know why that has now become the thing, but I think it has described the depth and the foundation of who I have become. And to me, any other title, anything that people will ever see in triumph or even admire, it's because God has picked me up from the deep muddy clay. So there will be no triumph sitting with you, whatever that you called me here for. Those things would not have been there had not been for the Lord on my side. So I am always proud to say I am a child of God because everything that you can ever say I am or everything that I've become is because of God. I am a go-getter. I'm a businesswoman. I did not know that I love business this much until I felt ill. And even in my sick bed, I was still making calls and sending people around. So I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I'm a speaker. I'm a pastor as well. I think that's all that I am. A mother. And you know what? We can go on and on, but those are the key things that it
Yes.
describes me.
Yes. So let's get into it because I think we have quite a bit to talk about. I want you to walk us through what season are you in right now? You did say you're a child of God, so if you were to describe your season right now, which season are you in?
Sure, that you don't trick me. But I'm in a season of evolving to everything that God has called me to be. I think God have not actually even scratched the surface of who Triumph is to become. I see a lot of unfolding happening in my life, getting into things that I never thought were meant for me. There's a book or a writer that I love so much. He usually says that in the days of your youth, pour yourself into something. And if whatever you are doing, if you are knocking at a door and you are knocking so hard and working so hard for it to be open, if you find out later in life that it was not the door for you, don't stress. It will be the door that leads to the door. And I'm seeing it in my life where I'm unfolding, where God is starting to reveal why I went through this, and that. Because we usually appreciate life in retrospect when we look back and we understand that that training was necessary because of where God is taking me. So I'm at a place where I am evolving to better. I'm at a place where I'm starting to see light at the end of the tunnel. I'm becoming the woman that God has called me to be. You know, when you see a flower that you've been watering for long and suddenly you see the ears coming out and it's blossoming, I'm at a grateful stage of God. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. So now, before we even dive deeper into everything that you've just said, walk us through your journey, how you grew up, where you come from, the things that you faced in becoming the person that you are today.
Oh, that's a long story. I'll try to cut it short. I don't know how long we have.
Yeah.
So I was born and bred in Bushbuck Ridge. I was born from teen parents. My mom was around 15, my dad was around 17, and I happened to grow up with my grandmother from my father's side. Okay. I usually say it is the greatest blessing that I've ever received in my life because I got to be raised by a praying woman. I did not choose that. God chose it for me, and I'm forever grateful. So I grew up without my parents. My mom was staying with her parents, my dad was in school, so it was me and my grandparents growing up. When you are a child, you think as a child. I did not see it as a blessing then. I saw it as the forsaken one because when everybody comes back, when my cousins come back home, they live with their parents. I felt like I'm just this one who lives here. They went to private schools and better schools, and every time when we need to do something, my grandmother would always say, you help them. I need to know you know how things go here at home. So I felt like the not so important one. I felt like the one who just remains here. But it's only as you grow up, as I keep on saying, when you are a child, you can only think as a child. It mattered to me that I did not wear ubabi like my cousins, and there was no one to do my hair, because my grandmother would say, you know what, we don't have time to be doing hair in the morning, so we cut. They gave me the basics of life. And they gave me they gave me stones instead of giving me interior design. They gave me stones to build. And our parents can only give us what they have. But what they gave me was the best. What is the use of interior if there's no building, if there's no foundation, if there's no stone? From there on, my dad then got married. I moved to White River with my dad and my stepmom to finish my matric there. I didn't make it in matric. I failed my matric. I think that was the worst thing in life that ever happened to me. And I felt like that time I did not really have the backup support. I felt like I'm just on my own. I started working at an early age. I think when I started working, it was around the age of 15. My first job was a cashier. That's when I moved to White River with my dad at Spa. And life was quite difficult. It was quite a challenging time. I think that also contributed to why I couldn't make it during my matric years. After that, I then continued working in restaurants. And now at that time, I'm out of home. I'm no longer living with my dad. I had to go find a room somewhere, working in restaurants. So as early as the age of 17, 18, I had to fend for myself. I had to be my mother. I had to be my father. I had to take the responsibilities of life, that if you do this happens. There's no one to stand and defend you. So I had to fend for myself at an early age of life. But that became a blessing as well. So I learned to be responsible. I learned to be tough at a young age. There's one scenario that I always talk about. I remember my manager, that time I was working at Spare, he would always say to you, you'll know what? I will mess you up today and you'll come back here tomorrow with a big smile because you need the money. He was a tough manager. And for sure, you would go to the bathroom. You know, when these veins are painful because you are holding back tears.
Yes.
And you would come back tomorrow with a big smile. So it taught me to push past pain in life. I did not know that preparation was necessary. I looked at my life and I was like, God, what's happening with me? Out of the frying pan to the fire, my life does not seem to be becoming any better. I thought that when I moved to town with my dad, finally I'll get to be the girl that I always admired to be. But it did not turn out that way. Here I am now. My friends have gone on with college and their studies, and I'm standing with a menu at the door, to a point that one of the girls that I was matriculating with once met me there and asked me, but you know what, she was just a child, I don't blame her. These are just memories that I carry with me. Like, how triumph, manje, when I go eskolweni. And believe me, by that time, you know, our waiters at the door, it's many of you standing there.
Yeah.
I just did not know. I felt like this ground must just open and swallow me, because that was not my desire. I found myself in that position. To cut the story short, after that, because now I am in an environment where I'm mostly working with people who are older than me, my friends have gone on to varsity to study. So I have nobody around me. My family is in Bushbuck Ridge. I'm now in White River. I'm staying alone. That moment was so crucial in my life. I did not know that I'm a writer. And if you become a writer, it becomes easier as well to become a speaker, because speakers are people who usually read a lot. So I spent most of my time when I was not at work, I will take old books. I started reading and I started writing a lot as well, because that was the only way to express my feelings. The scenarios rather that I'm telling you about, I had nobody to call and say, hey, guess what emsebenzini today. I used writing to express my feelings, to ask God my whys, and when it's a good day, to write about my dreams. If God so will, maybe I will still become a better person. Maybe I will still become whatever that I thought that I will be as I was growing up. And through that writing, I would also write a lot of poetry. I remember once, I don't remember what was the cause, I wrote on Heritage Day. This is just me on my off days when I'm not in the restaurant. And then I wrote on my off days, I would sit down and write poetry. I wrote about Heritage Day. It was September. I just wrote about Heritage Day. I had written that poem in about 5 different languages. For some reasons, I just thought I was with a friend that had come from Bushbuck Ridge, was around Nelspruit, and she said, let's meet in Nelspruit. When we are in Nelspruit, I say to her, can we pass through Likwala Kwala FM at the SABC? I've got a poem. It's something that we didn't even think hard of. We went to SABC. As I got there, speaking to the receptionist, there was a man behind the receptionist. That happened to be the station manager, busy with some files. It's as if he was looking for some files. And then I'm there explaining myself. I had not even prepared what I'm going to say. I just am. So I write poetry. I just wanted to find out if it's something that you guys might like to hear. The manager did not even give the lady time to say anything. He just turned back and said to me, do you have the poem with you? I said, yes. He opened the door and said, come in, took me to the studio, opened the mic. It was my first time. You know what? It was my first time to be in the studio. Oh, wow, this is beautiful. So beside the main studio, there's other studios. I didn't know where they do their recordings and all that. Opened the mic for me and said, go ahead. I read the first stanza. He said to me, stop. He said, do you want to do this poem on Saturday in studio? Come here and do it live, or do you want us to record? I was like, I've never been on studio. I've never been in radio, so that my nerves are calm. Do you mind if we record? I can still come to studio. I would love that. We recorded the poem. Saturday, I came in. It was a show called Sikri Salabasha on Saturdays. So that's where they featured the poem. After that day, they asked me, do you mind coming here every Saturday? So we're going to give you topics. For example, if it's September and it's Heritage, you're going to be writing about heritage. If it's, I think, December, we celebrate the World AIDS Day, you're going to be writing about that. Depending, every month we'll have a theme that you write on. From there on, I realized that, you know what? I think I found my passion. In school, I used to do a lot of drama and poetry anyway. And I was like, I think this thing is in me and it helps me to express myself. So all these thoughts that I have been keeping inside, now I have a platform to express them. And what also made me mature so early is having to work. I always remember this lady with people like Abo Sis Mamsi. You know, these ladies who cook at the restaurants at the back. These are people who tell you about their kids. Sometimes they talk to you not realizing that you are a child. So this environment, you are a child, but it is maturing you very quickly in life. So when you begin to write, you don't realize how much information and maturity you have in you. Yeah. And I believe that God does that intentionally, so that when you walk into platforms that are public, you are able to relate to so many people. It's not easy to use a person who is only one-sided. I was a child, but my writing was not only speaking to children, because now I had been exposed to so many things within the short period of my life. I decided then, after my time with SABC in Likwala Kwala FM was over, that I want to go to Joburg. I started writing to the SABC in Auckland Park. I came to Auckland Park when I was... As you know, as you leave MTN, takes a rank to Auckland Park, it was early in the morning. I did not have to ask if we have arrived. I saw the buildings and I was like, wow, this is where I belong. Remember, I live alone. I don't need to ask somebody. I don't need to decide with anyone. I was just this go-getter when I felt like doing something. And I think that's the beauty of being a child and the infant stages of youth. Youth is ambitious. And because you have not faced a lot of rejection and everything that you think of goes, I think of doing that. Until you are an adult where you've received a lot of no, where you start comparing yourself with other people, then you start to build up fear. But I think at that age, I had not built up so much fear. The world was my oyster. I believe that I can do it. If they can do it, I can do it too. I came to Johannesburg. But then when I came here, I did rewrite my matric. While I was working in the restaurant, I rewrote my matric. I passed my matric. I always had the desire. My dad is an academic. I always had a desire to please my dad, to make things well with my father, to be a daughter that she once dreamed of. So I registered with an institution that, you know what, I won't come here and just... actually, I need to start from scratch to even know how to penetrate these spaces. I then started to study. 6 months down the line, the money that I had been putting together was finished. I'm living in Soweto, traveling from Soweto to Braamfontein every day. I remember when it was my last day of, actually, I went to school to tell my friends, return the textbooks. I will deal with the debts that remains for these 6 months. I'll go back home and try to get a job again. I remember on that day, is that the same way that it happened at Likwalakwala FM, that I came at the right time? I think the Bible says that God has engraved us in the palm of his hands. The stories of our lives that we think were just coincidence, they are in God's plan. And that day I was using a train. So I would use a train from Murafe to Braamfontein. I would usually have my headsets on when I'm in a train. A train is not a lovely place. Everything happens there. So to mind my own business, I remember there's a man who stood up to preach. Because there's a lot of people who preach in the train, you don't want to listen to everything and everyone. Mind you, I'm raised by my grandmother, who is a pastor and a praying grandmother. So the line of my spirituality, I'm very clear about that. And I remember he read a scripture. I cannot quote it very well, but I can remember the wording of that scripture. He said that we don't want you, brethren, to be ignorant of what happened to us in the province of Asia, that we were so overwhelmed to a point where we wished for death upon our lives. But we believe that these things happened so that we never rely on ourselves, but we rely on God who raises the dead. He said it in Zulu, and this stuck with me. Owasihlangulisa, usasihlangulisa, usanakusihlangulisa. Meaning that he who saved us will save us and will still continue to save us. When he began to pray, I found myself in the floor, a trainee, mind you. And I just said to God, God, here I am trying out life. What is it, exactly what you have called me for? What is it exactly that you want? Why was I born? What does life want from me? I'm trying my best. I'm giving my best without any support. Why do I have to be here? But it stuck with me that he who have saved us will save us and shall continue to save us. Fine, that moment passed. Remember, that does not change anything. I tried NSFAS. For some reasons, my documents were mixed up. I go to school. I find my friend. I'm returning my textbooks. And then I'm telling my friend that, you know what, friend, she knew my story. I've tried. I've run out of money for rent, for food and everything. It's time to go back to Mpumalanga. I find her with another girl, and this girl says, why don't you apply NSFAS? And I'm like, I have applied. It was not, back then you were still applying with papers and so forth. She says to me, my sister works at the NSFAS office. Let us go. There was an NSFAS office there at the campus. Let's go there. I will help you to apply. Oh, okay, fine, sharp. We go to the NSFAS office. Actually, they retrieve my application that was rejected. And she tells me what was missing, a story for another day. She tells me what was missing. Actually, just thought of it not so long, how I had to hike from Johannesburg to the village to get my mother's ID and hike back to Johannesburg with an ID that is not satisfied. It's a copy of copies. You know that copy that have been copied a million times. I got to a police station, New Canada police station in Soweto. I'm certifying my my ID and everything else. When this guy gets to my mother's ID, I get you put the copies and you put the originals.
Yeah.
He says to me, and then here, I cried. I just literally cried. You know, because I needed this so badly. You know, so now they focus. So he just stamps everything and they're focusing on me. Everyone is focusing on me. And then I just went like, no, things are not well at home. I'm coming from home to get these things. When I left there, I realized that I was crying because I can't take my mother's ID. My mom will not allow me to do that.
Yeah.
I'm here with a copy and I need it certified. I don't have any other option. I just need it done and I couldn't explain. But when I walked out of there, I was like, Lord, you are good. You stepped in at the right moment. To cut the long story short, I finished my studies And after that, I thought at some point I would go back. I always wanted to be a television uh, presenter. I
Yeah.
thought I would go back to it. But as I said, that as you grow up, you start to have a lot of fears in life because of the no's, and you start to compare yourself with the people around you. I came to Johannesburg and I saw these fine girls. I'm like, what? Are these the people that I'm supposed to compete with? Sometimes when you go to auditions and you look at them and you see them and you're like, there is no way. So all those things, they begin to deflate your ambition and your passion to move forward. Thank God that when I was in college, when my NS first came, I started a business that I'm running till this day. So usually when my friends get their NS first, those days it was the days of Macavela
Yeah.
and blackberries. They would buy those things. I went to Johannesburg and I bought bags with my NSFAS money. And I went back to Nelspruit on a Friday. Saturday morning, I was going door to door selling these nice things that I've come with from Johannesburg. Believe me, from there on, I never looked back. My life began to change. I think that's where the entrepreneur in me was born. But I thought I was just fulfilling a short period need at that time, with a lot of challenges along the way. I will always emphasize you are just alone. You are figuring life on your own. So every challenge and every obstacle that you face, it's on you. If you make a bad decision, it's on you. But all those things, God was training me to be a better person. And I believe that I walked that journey. There's a quote that says that you are assigned this mountain to show others it can be moved. I remember praying for a house, and I said to God, if you give me a house, anyone close to me coming from the village and they're coming to study and they need a place to sleep, even if it's for 3 days, I will open up my house to them because I know how it's like to come into this big city and you don't know anyone, that a lot of people can take advantage of you. You know, when people find you vulnerable, I don't know why it's like that. You know, when people meet you, when they meet me like this and I'm at Pick and Pay and I'm like, oh my God, I'm short with 1 rand, 10 people will offer to
Give you the one
to
rand.
give me the 1 rand, but go there as a beggar. So I don't know what is it with life. When you are vulnerable, everybody who meets you just wants to finish you off. So I said to myself, if you do it for me, Lord, I will do it for others. I will never have the opportunity to go to each and every person that I've met in the street. I remember one time when I wanted to go home and I had no money. I had packed my bags. I came to school to write my last test. I think it was during the year. And I was like, today I'm sleeping at home. I went to the park station and I started asking for money to go back home. I will never meet those people to repay them. But the mercy that those people have shown me is the mercy that I will need to show others today.
Sure, that's such a in-depth story, and how courageous you are is very admirable, actually. But I want to go back to when you had said your parents had you at a very young age. So as you were growing up, moving to Joburg, staying alone, did you ever have a fear of then following in that footstep of having children at a young age? Because I think a lot of times now, especially if your parents conceived you at a young age, it's like, oh, I don't want to be like my parents and have kids at a young age. And there's this thing of, if your parents have a child at 20, you also have a child at 20. So did you ever have to deal with that fear?
Definitely. You know, as we experience in life, we become. I think the concept of bad and just being a naughty child or a naughty person, and this goes on with you even at a later stage, we are just executors of our experiences. So the things that have happened in your family are likely to happen to you because you are your life from there on begins to execute your experiences. I'll give you an example with maybe a boy child who grew up with a father who was abusive to the mother. If you only say to yourself, that will never be me, you will be surprised that you will do the same thing to your own wife. Because as we experience, we become. Unless you get into a conscious stage, because the process of becoming better starts with the realization of who you are, where you come from, who you are, and you make a conscious decision of where you want to go. That's where the stage of becoming starts. So most of the time, the very things that we say that will never be me becomes our own experience. So, but with the pain, every time you look back in your life, the pain must just be a vehicle to fuel you to better. I'd always say to myself, I am not going to have a child until I have a car and I have my own place and everything is in place, because I don't want my children to experience what I experienced. And I took a conscious decisions. Remember, you are a girl as well. You start dating, and I grew up just like any other girl and went through the experiences of all of them. But then you make a conscious decision to say, when you see your friends like this, you might do the things that they are doing, but they've got a cushion to fall on. If somebody gets pregnant now and they go home, they've got a mother at home. They even have somebody who might say, you know what, I want you to finish school, leave the child and go back. If I drop this, I have nothing to fall on. If I go back now to Mpumalanga, I just need to continue where I left off. I have no cushion, I have no mother. Where will this child even stay? So that is something that I always held on to, that I don't have a cushion to fall on. So if I hold on to this rope, I must hold on tightly, no matter how hard it is. So that helped me to always remember that because your mother got you at a young age, now she's married somewhere, your dad is married somewhere, do you want the same thing to happen to your kids?
Sure. Yeah. So then now with that being said, do you then feel like you've died to the idea of, like you said, pleasing your dad? Because I think especially as young people, we have this thing of like, I just want to make my parents proud. And if they're proud, I've won in life, but it doesn't end there, right? So would you then say you also just died to that idea?
I think I fulfilled it. I think I have fulfilled that part. God is great. You know, I keep on saying, He says, yes, in great. He says, before you were even born, I knew you. That even the tempests and the storms that come to your life, He has seen them, He has measured them. There's a part that says that I will not allow you to be tempted beyond your ability to endure. Temptation this time is not temptation, but to be burdened. Actually, there's another verse that says, I will not allow you to be burdened beyond your ability to endure. Even with the burden, I will create a way out. Where I wanted to say is that everything in your life has been planned out. It's just that when you are still living in the moment of pain, it does not look like it. I fulfilled that part, got a job, be in an office, tend my chair, wearing heels. I fulfilled that part for my dad. And I had to come back to triumph, to that childhood speaker, presenter, entrepreneur. I had to come back to her. But as for my dad, I think what I'm doing now continues to make him rather proud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you said, you had to turn back and come back to triumph. So with everything that you've spoken about, from being on ACBC, on the Kalakala FM, to everything else that you've done, what is one moment that you say, now this was difficult and I had to fight through it? Outside of everything else, navigating life alone, that pain that you keep emphasizing on, what's that one standout thing that you thought you could never go through or get past?
Sure. There's quite a few of them. Let me talk maybe about my journey on Mrs. South Africa.
Oh wow, you're in South Africa.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I grew up an obese child.
Okay.
So, as I said, growing up with my grandmother, I never had a mentor on how to be a girly girl, on how to sit and how to pose, lift your shoulders, and so forth. So, that was a far-fetched dream for me. But there come a time in life, that's why I call myself a go-getter. There come a time in life where you say, who am I not to be? Where you take your entire strength, your entire weight, and you throw it at something. There is 1,000,000 women in South Africa, and Mrs. South Africa receives million applications, and then you get to top 100, and then you need to get to the finalists. It's so hard to a point that even when you are sleeping, you are half sleeping because your mind is thinking. It's thinking about the next activities. And it's not about outshining other women. The best battle you will ever fight, or even the best and the worst battle that you'll ever fight in life, is the battle within you. Because when you get into the interview room, they are not going to say you answered 5 questions right. We asked you who is the president, who is the minister, and this other one answered 8 right. It's not that. I don't know if that makes sense. They are just going to ask you about you. So it's not like they asked you the same questions and it's because I did not have the privilege to go to a better school. That's why she won. So the best thing that you can ever do in your life is to invest in self. And there's nothing wrong with you. Where you were born, where you come from, and your experiences. Actually, your experiences make you beautiful. But most of the time we think, if I had gone to a better school, if maybe I was driving that car, if maybe I had a mansion and I had once invited these girls to come and have tea at my place, I would have gotten a place in the hearts of the judges. No, you are your story is what makes you. You are sufficient as you are. And that took me time. The Mrs. South Africa journey got me to realize that I am sufficient and I am perfect as I am. That there are a million other women who see themselves through me, who have gone through the same story or the same experiences of life. But it takes time to get there, because when I see V, I feel like maybe if I was wearing purple shoes as well, oh, that hair. We always compare ourselves to people that we forget to look inside. Everything that we ever need from life is not external. Everything that you ever need in life, before you go and look for it outside, look for it inside. So that was a process of a process of my life where I had to have coffee with triumph, where I had to remold her, affirm her, twist some things that needs to be twisted, change where I need to change. So I think for me, that was one hard step, to be able to stand out and know that I count. When they announce the finalist, you now stand there from diverse backgrounds of life. And I was like, girl, you matter. You fought so hard. I did not know how it's like to go and ask for sponsorship, to knock in rooms, to approach people. That period really transformed me. I don't want to speak about business. Everything in life will always be new. There was a first day when you were doing this. There's always a first day in everything. Even when you are 50, there is a first day on 50 where you'll be facing the challenges of other 50-year-olds. And you cannot say, I'm too old, I know how to handle this. No, you are new. If you've never mothered a son who has a wife, even if you are 60 and you have a son, a daughter-in-law, you are new into it. So there will always be something new. There will always be something to learn. But you need to always tell yourself that I am able. I am able to do this. Who am I not to be? If others have gone through me and have succeeded, me too, I will succeed. I will knock in doors, like in business, go and knock in doors and blab and make mistakes and shoot yourself in the foot. That is the package of your growth. That is what you have signed up for. This module is part of the degree, the failure, the shooting yourself in the foot, what the hell did I just say there? All of these hardships are necessary for where God is taking you.
Yeah, I love that. So now, you said you're a pastor. How is that? How has that been with church, or is it just a ministry of your own?
I'm submitting into a church. I'm submitting into a church. I love this topic so much because that's why I said to you at first, I'm a child of God.
Yeah.
Before titles, before you become a pastor and people think, your life does not change. If you love God, you love God. Well, this is me. I did not grow up thinking I'll be a pastor. That is one part of me that shocked me. I loved God. As I told you with my experience in the train of how God transformed my life. He had continued from that day when every time I go into the place of prayer and I would say, oh, angihlangulisa, usangihlangulisa, usangihlangulisa, because that guy was Zulu. Every time when I kneel down, I say, who have saved me? When I thought I have failed matric, life is over. When I came to this ruthless city of Johannesburg, he who has opened the doors will still do it now. I was just a child who loved God. I did not know that God had a bigger platform for me. And all what that platform is doing is to make me a testament. I'm just a witness. Every time I stand up, I'm just speaking of what the Lord has done. And if He can do it for me, He can do it for you. I think being a pastor is just being a disciple to go and tell the world about this God that you have met personally in your life, because you cannot speak about somebody that you do not know, somebody that you do not have intimacy with. To me, that is all. To say, yes, I'm Christian and I'm a witness of God that He can do it. He has opened doors for me and I have seen Him.
So, what advice then would you give to any young adult trying to navigate their faith and grow to an extent where they can now be confident in discipleship without any shame from whatever past they have or whatever they've walked through?
Oh, this is a beautiful question. God will call you not despite the things you have done, but because of where you've been through. So most of the time when God calls us, we think, why would you call me with the past that I have? God will call you not putting a backdrop of your past, but He will call you because of your past. You become the good candidate to be used by God. There are people who will believe that surely there must be a God. If this one could change, if Saul could become Paul, then there must be a God. I think it's the greatest story of the Bible when the worst people become witnesses and they're transformed by God. So your story is sufficient. That's what makes you a great witness. When you say I was an addict, there are people who are addicts out there who will say, I cannot go to God. I mean, God does not want people like me. But when they see you, they realize that if God could save her or save him, it means that there is a chance for me. Because we don't always have a clean life. When you look at the people that God used in the Bible, are people who were flawed. And that's why God said, I did not come for the clean and the perfect, but I have come for the lost sheep. God did not come for the perfect Sunday people on a Sunday morning. He came for the lost. And it's a pity that we run away and say, not me. Why? Because I'm not good enough. You can never be good enough in your own. You cannot tame the flesh by the flesh. How many people try to quit addictions that they can see that this thing is killing me? But you cannot tame the flesh by the flesh. It needs some interventions, whether it becomes physical intervention or spiritual intervention. And God becomes that person who becomes a spiritual intervention. He has the power to change that you cannot have by your own. So if you are somebody who loves God, but you think I've got a past that is not clean, you are the perfect candidate to witness for the kingdom of God, saying that if I, from this and that, if Saul, who was persecuting the Christian, became somebody who wrote, I think, thirds of the New Testament, then who am I not to be?
Yeah.
You become the perfect example to say God is able to change people.
Yeah. So then, despite all of that, what's the biggest misconception you see then in society about being Christian? Something that you say, no, man, but this is not really what it's about or what it is.
It's two-way. First of all, I think young people are scared to come to Christianity because I think they think it's for foolish people. It's for people who don't have a life. It's for people, it's for people who don't have a life. Like, you know what, I'm young, I just want to live, I want to have a life. So this Christianity thing will stop me from living out my life. And I don't think that is true. Mostly, I think maybe we as Christians as well, it's what we have shown the world, that we are too perfect, that we have everything in line, rather than to also show our weaknesses. Paul says, I have a thorn in my flesh, and 3 times I prayed. That thorn is whereby you become naked in front of another young child and become a mentor and say, look, 1, 2, 3, and 4, I know it. I've gone through it. And God knows about it. But coming to him, there is peace and joy that I think nothing in the world can ever give. There's this satisfaction that nothing in the world can ever give that comes from from serving, that comes from God. Let me say it that way. But most of the time, maybe we pretend to be so perfect that when people have scars, feel like I can't go there. And yeah.
So I like that you said that, because perfect is boring. And I think people, especially from what I've seen with, because this is my first ministry, because I always said when starting this podcast, it's always been about God and my healing journey in becoming the person that I am still becoming, right? And perfection is boring. And I think a lot of times in society, young people struggle with this thing of like, oh no, I need to be this put together person. I must, have it all figured out in order to be Christian. But then if you did have it all figured out, you wouldn't need the answers. You wouldn't know to go to the Bible. You wouldn't know to pray. You wouldn't know to do anything if you feel like it's perfect. And it's not boring. I don't know why people think being Christian is also boring. Like, who said you can't have a life if you're following God? I think it's also just a matter of boundaries. It's understanding what Christianity is and not what you think it is, just because you feel like Christians just sit at home every day.
And people speak like that, and they've never even been to church. They are just speaking from just what they observe from outside.
But then would you then blame the church then? Because most people have not been to church because they've been hurt by the church. And I've met so many people who don't go to church because, I was in church when I was 5 years old and I saw so many things happen and I just don't believe this is where I need to be. Because I think faith is grown in the church. You need to be taught in order to learn so that you can stand firmly on your own.
Yes, that's true.
Then a lot of times people don't go to church because they've been hurt by the church. So don't you think maybe that's also a problem that a lot of young people can be facing? Because we see so much, we see you pretending that you have it all figured out, and behind the outside the church doors, I'm seeing something else. And now I'm just like, okay, but then what is this then? Yeah.
I've had a lot of church hurts, and so forth. Life hurts. Life hurts. In families we are hurt, in relationships we are hurt. But I do not believe that's why your faith in God must be so established, so much beyond the four walls called a church. Your faith in God must be so well established, so much, even beyond your pastor. I'm not speaking of disrespect. Your pastor most of the time is the first person who teaches you how to pray, all these things when you come to your faith. But you need to grow your roots so much that you do not say one day, my pastor said 1, 2, 3, and I don't understand or I don't believe in that, so this God thing is a lie. Your faith in God must be broader than the individuals around you, than the four walls around you. So that if it happens that triumph, because I am only flesh and blood, the book of Psalms says that I understand your frame and that you are only dust. That was God referring to people. So that when one day triumph hurts you, sometimes I speak to you while I'm thinking and I speak badly, and you have seen me as a mentor in the faith. So that when one day I disappoint you, your faith in God and your roots are so deep that you still manage to hold on to this God and to this faith. If it means then really these walls, have disappointed you, maybe go and find another house, another shelter called a church that carries the same principles where you will continue to grow. I don't really believe in staying in the house and saying I will grow in the house. No matter how strong a wood is, it becomes a better force when other woods come in. That's what explodes the fire. That's what gives the fire its power. Unlike when one strong wood is standing alone. I believe in fellowship. And I know that simply because we are people, it's not church. It's because we are people. Church is full of imperfect people. We hurt each other. So if that happens to you, let your faith be bigger than the people around you. Let your roots in God be bigger than the four walls. But I would still encourage that, okay, fine, then go find somewhere to fellowship. Let every Sunday morning be there in worship, in praise, in offering, in listening to the word of God physically, not even through, we've grown through YouTube. These days, people are preaching everywhere. But I believe in fellowship. I
Yeah.
believe in going to a space that is spirit filled. And unfortunately, that sometimes we get to experience what we experience.
No, I love that you dropped so many nuggets. I've also just taken so much from you. But before we actually wrap up, I want to ask you if you were to look at Triumph 10 years ago, 15, I don't know how many years ago back, but your old self and your new self now, what is one thing that you would say to yourself? And also something that you feel maybe could be encouraging to the next person who wants to be an entrepreneur, who's growing in their faith, becoming that woman, being as beautiful and as led as you are in yourself, as sure as you are in yourself. What would you say to that person or that woman?
Trust the process and continue to work on yourself. At every stage of life, there is something better to look forward to. As much as you appreciate the stage where you are, continue to desire to become more. Once your mind is stretched by a new experience or a new exposure or a new desire, it cannot contrast back to its old dimension. Continue to expand yourself. Continue to become better. The triumph that you see today is a triumph that I have imagined 5, 10 years ago. When you see it, you begin to work towards it. So continue to expose yourself to better. Get into rooms where you feel like you don't belong. When you get into those rooms, believe me, your mind is being transformed and is being expanded. Once the mind is transformed, the body begins to take steps towards that new desire, that new experience that the mind have captured. Continue to seek to becoming a better person. We begin to die the minute we think we have arrived, because then there is nothing to look forward to in life. At whatever age, whether you are 7 or you are 70, if you are still alive, there is still something to look forward to. There is still something to do. There is still something to work on. Continue to grow. That's what makes life interesting. That's what makes life worth living.
Yeah, sure. I love that. Thank you so much for coming and sharing so much wisdom and knowledge. I think the biggest takeaway from today's conversation that we've had, or today's episode, and to whoever's watching, is that courage is the best trait you can ever have, because then you are forthcoming in everything, in every situation, and you can take in. So thank you so much for just coming to share on Mindful Unfoldings and the platform. I've learned, and I know so many hearts as well are going to learn just to be courageous and to become that girl, because you are definitely that girl as well.
Thank you.
So please just tell people also just where they can find you on social media,
Please find
where
me.
to support you, where you need support, and then we'll just link everything on the screen. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. In all my social media platforms, I am Triumph Lubisi on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, on actually in all my social media platforms. I post my businesses as well, which is the boutique, the food business. If you need orders, if you need to plug me, if there's anything, where those others actually need to ask, how do I start? Or this is what I'm doing. How do I expand? Let's communicate. I'm somebody who now and again I go to my DMs or whatever to check who is trying to communicate with me. So you can get me in all my social media platforms as Triumph Lubisi.
Awesome. And I will link everything on the screen, and then people also connect to you. And before you go, we have a little token of appreciation. Nothing much, just a lunch bar.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Just a
this
little
is so
cute,
cute.
just a little cute lunch bar.
Thank you.
Just to thank you for coming. We hope maybe one day we'll have a reunion. You can share more and more and more.
Yes.
So thank you so much to everyone who watched today's episode. Please don't forget to follow Triumph on social media platforms. We'll link everything on the screen, and also just watch out on social media on Mindful Unfoldings, where we'll just collaborate with you on everything so people can find you easier. And don't forget to follow myself, Yala Nkambula, on Instagram, TikTok, as well as Mindful Unfoldings on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, as well as subscribe on YouTube, leave a comment, share, and Busang Studios on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. I will see you guys next time. Love and light. Bye. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.